Okay guys, so I wanted to make a video on how to do the lowercase letters when there is a letter that hangs down. So you have a few different options and it'll just depend on what you want your work to look like. If you're making one continuous blanket, it won't be as big and noticeable if you let it hang down further and you have extra rows. Per line, so each row won't necessarily just be 7. They could be more than 7. But if you have squares that you're putting together and then you're going to sew them together, you want them all to be even, because you don't want to sew a small square to a big square, then you're going to have a gap somewhere. So that's where you're going to kind of come into an issue. But you do kind of have options, and it just depends on what you want to do. If you know which squares you're going to have, you can create extra lines. So for instance, I did the word age. So you have your lowercase a, and then you have a G, which you can, okay, so a capital letter has 7 lines, and I tried to create lowercase letters that was less than 7 lines. So some of the letters are just a little bit bigger than the other letters. But for age, A-G-E, the G, if you would do normal handwriting, the G would actually come down and hang below the line. So if you have only 7 and you don't leave extra space, you can't do that. So your G is actually going to look up and actually be as tall as your A and your E. So if you don't care that that's how it looks, you can make your G look like this. This one was just a little bit longer, one more longer. So you can try to play around with it to make it squeeze into the 7. You can take this little part off if you like that. And then this would be 7. Or if you add 1 extra line, this is how your age could look. A-G-E, and then you just have to create 1 extra line. So like when you make your chain, and then you go back and you make your single crochets. When you go to start doing your bubble stitches, when you start coming over, this is actually going to be your first line. So you're going to do single, 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 bubble, single, bubble, single, single, and then you're going to finish off the rest all singles. You're going to turn your work, you're going to do singles all the way across, turn your work again to work your next bubble row. So then you're going to do single crochet, bubble, single, bubble, single, bubble, single, 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 bubble, single, bubble, single, bubble, single, bubble. And then you're just going to work up. But when you get done, you're going to have a patch that is going to be 8 total bubble rows, as opposed to your other ones that are going to be 7. So what you can do is, if you know that you have in, one strip of crochet pattern, if you know that you're going to have an 8, what you can do is on your last word that only had 7, you can create just an extra blank line to make 8. So instead of starting your bubbles at the very beginning, you're going to make a dead row where you're going to make your crochet over, you're going to turn your work, you're going to go back, you're going to turn your work, and instead of starting right here, you're just going to do single crochets all the way across, turn your work, do your singles to get back to be able to turn it again, and then you're actually going to start here. So then you're just going to make it, a total of 8, and then you're going to have a dead row though. So just make sure that you make that. Otherwise, if you start with this, then you're going to, you're going to have an extra row. So, and then there was this one where you can actually drop it down even further. But this had 10 total rows. So you were going to have you wouldn't have any dead rows, but your first row is going to be, single, 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 and then bubble, single, bubble, singles, and then all the way across. Then you're going to turn your work, you're going to do your singles all the way across, and then when you come back, you're going to do this row. So you're only going to have 2 in this row. Then you're going to go back, and then you're going to come back again. Then when you come back to this row, you're only going to have 1 little bubble, and then you're going to actually start with your A's and your E's. So you can do a bunch of different things, however you want it to look. If you want the age to look like this, if you want it to look like that, I actually think I like that one best. Or you can do it to where you don't have to add any dead rows. So just make sure that when you go to grid it out and you start putting your words, if you have anything that hangs down, if you got a Q, a P, a G, make sure that you plan accordingly. So when you go to make a blanket, make sure you map out your entire blanket in each row by row so that you can make sure that you leave enough rows to be able to make it all add up. Again, if you're making one continuous blanket, just make sure that you know when to start down here. So you're gonna have a lot of dead space before you get to your normal letters when you have one that hangs down. Other than that, you're normally gonna start from left to right, but sometimes when you have it, you're gonna start in the middle somewhere doing your bubble letters. So I hope that makes sense, and then tune in for the next video, which will actually be showing you how to put all of these grids together to actually make the crochets in the blankets. Thanks guys, tune in.